Good morning. A couple of days ago I uploaded the Introduction to Voxtool video, and in it I said that you're expected to have some knowledge on how to 3D model UV unwrap and all that kind of stuff. And it's totally outside the scope of my videos to teach you how to 3D model and such, but there's so many videos out there that can teach you how to do that in Houdini or Cinema 4D or Maya or Lightwave or Moodoo or 3D Studio Max or whatever. But I thought that at least I should show you some like core concepts, and then you can take it from there. Just let me get dressed and we'll get to it.
Okay, so here we are in Blender. I'm going to start by deleting the default cube. This video is totally unscripted, so we'll see how that goes. Let's start by importing the terrain I used for the Introduction to Voxtool video. There we go. Okay, just hide the light on the camera. Let's take a look at this. It's very high density, so let's fix that. Here we are with a pretty nice mesh. And the first thing we are going to look at is there is no UV map. So let's go to UV editing and select all the faces. So UV mapping is if you want to bake a texture all around this, you have to unwrap all these faces so they lie flat on a 2D image. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but while this is technically game asset creation, it doesn't necessarily have to follow the same rules as if you would make an asset for a Unity or Unreal project or something like that. It can be a lot more sloppy with, for example, UV unwrapping than really optimizing it for in-game efficiency, because the UV map and this actual mesh is not going to be used in the game. So the way I'm usually do it is to use Smart UV Project. Let's give it some margins around the UV islands. Here you can see that this mesh has been like cut up and wrapped, so everything lies flat on a 2D plane, which is going to become an image. That's essentially what UV wrapping is. You can look into UV unwrapping videos on YouTube, and you will find like lots of information that we won't go into today. So now let's apply like a very basic texture to this. So I go into shading. We're going to delete this Principled BSDF shader, and I'm going to add a Asian shader like this. And we're going to connect some texture to that. I'm not using the UV as mapping for this. I'm using generated. I'm going to open image texture. It's Cliff. And now this is really stretched. So what you can do is you can use, in Blender it's called box projection. In other programs it might be called triplanar mapping or something like that. So now this texture is applied like depending on the surface normal of the polygons, what direction they are pointing. So for polygons having the face direction in this way, it's projected from this direction, and from this direction, and from this direction, and from up, below. That's usually a pretty good way of getting a nice texture easily on a terrain object. if you get sharp borders like here, it's because it's mixing like on these faces it's projecting from the side, and on these faces it's projecting from above. That doesn't line up properly, so you can increase this blend value, something like that. That's nice. And if we copy this texture and open a new one, take the corresponding height map, and we use the same mapping, duplicate the emission as well. Now if we switch between these two, the height map for those cliffs automatically align with the color or albedo texture. So that's good. And then let's say you want some dirt surfaces. So I'm going to copy all of this down here. I'm going to open this dot and open the corresponding height map here. You can see if we look at these, we have the dirt instead, and we have the corresponding height map. So if you want to mix these, let's do it like this. So these two are the two emission shaders for dirt and rock, and these two are for the two height maps. Okay, now I want to mix these, so I'm going to input a color mix node. Can remove that one. So now if we can see that we can mix between those two textures. We're going to go back here, and we're going to go to vertex paint. We're going to call this rock.mask. And I'm going to fill it with black, like that. Change my color to white. If we go back to shading, I can add a vertex color input and put that into the factor. So everything that is black in my rock dirt mask is going to be rock, and everything that is white is going to be the dirt. So let's go back to the vertex painting, and I'm going to set the mode to material preview. Now I can start painting here. I'm using F to change the size of the brush, and I can use Shift F to change the opacity of the brush. Something like that. We go back to shading. And now we want to do this height map as well. I can delete that one. If I switch these, you can see that the height map is perfectly aligned with the color map. I can continue like this. Let's say we want to add some grass. as well. Give us some room here. So we copy this whole setup up, something like this. A new color map, or color texture, and its corresponding height. And now you want to combine these two and add the grass on top. So we're copying that one, making a copy like this. And oops, color, height map. And now we want a new vertex color to control the mix. So you can see this is what I want to control with the new map. So I go back here, change it to solid, make a new vertex map, grass mask. We're going to fill it with black to white, back to shading. We want a new vertex color input, grass mask, like that. And we want it to control this one as well. Let's go to material preview. Yes, something like that. This is just very sloppy to show you the concepts. And the grass looks very big. So we can change the scale here. Something like that. Maybe the dirt is a bit big as well. Yeah, that's looks good. If we change to the height maps, you can see that we have the height maps perfectly aligned with the color maps. You can make a lot of adjustment. For example, you would probably like to brighten up the grass height mask or darken the dirt, because the grass should be like higher than the dirt layer, because the grass is like on top. You could do this in the ground height map. I'm just going to add another mix RGB. Oh, I was going to do that for the grass. Then we can put it to add. There. Then we do it on the dirt height map as well, but we use subtract. Something like that. Okay, and here's the next trick. We're going to create mix RGB. We're going to put this top color here to red, green, and a second one, and this one to blue. That. Input rock dot mask as vector or as a factor. Put this into the top layer and use the grass mask factor. Let's create another emissive shader. Now you have an automatic material map as well. And can do a lot of stuff like this. This looks extremely complicated, but once you understand what all these are doing, it's not that complicated. It looks like a bowl of spaghetti, but it's not that bad. And you can clean this up a lot and make it a bit more structurally sound. But this is the basics of it. Now we're going to add an image texture. There. Going to create a new one. And let's make it a 4K map. We're going to call it color. It doesn't need to have an alpha. There we go. And we are going to start with the colors. Here we are. I go to this render properties tab, baking, and I want to bake from emit, from emissive to image texture. And when you do that you need to have the image that you're baking to selected in the shader in Blender. In other software, I have no clue how you do this, but you can learn it online. I click bake. Ta-da! Here you see, here I have my color map. If we go into UV editing, you can see that this unwrapped mesh is matches perfectly on what we baked out in the from the shader. So we have the color and we can save it. Save as color PNG. That's great. I'm going to create a new one. It's called displacement. And we're going to that one there. Now we're looking at the displacement information. Select the image, bake. Ta-da! Here we have our displacement map. Save it as displacement. I'm going to make a new one. Call it material. So this is what I mean when I talked about being sloppy with your UV maps. If this was a game asset, there's a lot of unused room in this texture map, and you could start fiddling around and trying to make this utilize the map as good as possible. Instead, I just tend to go to an maybe unnecessarily high resolution texture map like 4K. Because this is not actually going to be used in the game. This is not going to tax the game engine. So I can give me that freedom to be a bit sloppy. And I'm going to connect materials. I have the material texture selected and I click bake. Here we are. I'm going to save it. Material. Then I can, let's make another one of these. And where do I have my grass? Up here. I'm just going to take the grass texture directly into this. And here I have the object completely covered in grass. And I can bake this out and use this as the grass color map. So let's make another one. grass color. Take it. Have it. Grass color. Final thing I'm going to do, that I'm going to take the output from the grass mask into this one. And here I have my grass mask. Texture, grass mask, select it, bake. Go, save it. And the final step I'm going to do is we change the vertex density of this object. So I'm going to select it, export, OBJ, export it here, delete that one. Was the old one I used to import. So what we want to do here, and I guess you have similar options to this in other programs, but at least you want to have selection only. You don't want to export your camera and lights, and if you have other shapes in the same scene, just the selection. And then we don't have to write materials, but we do want to triangulate the faces. If you have non-triangular faces in your object, you're going to get these like triangle shaped holes in your final box output. So make sure either in your program to triangulate your mesh or do it in your export step or wherever you're doing it. You can keep the name basic terrain. I'm exporting it and that's done. We open up Voxtool and my input file is the basic terrain object. There we go. And the output, just call it terrain, color map file, or material map. Let's take a look at this. Looks like I'm using red for the rocks, blue for the grass, and green for the dirt. Red for the rocks, it can be bricks. Blue I'm using for the grass. Try and make the grass foliage. Never tried that before. Then we take our displacement map. We can normalize it because it looks gray. To use a signed displacement map, let's put that 5. In the introduction to Voxtool video, I used really high displacement values. And it's good to keep them fairly reasonable, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6. And it's better to like model the rough rock textures in the mesh and then use the displacement for more like detailed cracks and crevices and stuff like that. But this shape is so smooth. I haven't modeled any like cliff structures or stuff in that, so that's why I used a higher value in the introduction to Voxtool video. But let's keep it to 5 here. Not doing the soil map. Have grass coverage, and I see it. And we have our grass color. Alt values are good. I'm physical. I'm not going to blend it. I'm going to use the flood fill with 4 indestructible layers of rock underneath. Not doing a solid fill, we're skipping the trim. I'm not going to compress it because we want to take a look at it in Magica Voxel. Let's try, I can save my settings. Let's try generating it. And now let's take a look. I select all with Control A and then G to put it on the ground plane. Let's go into render mode. Up the exposure a bit. Yeah. It looks pretty cool. And then you know the rest, how to bring this Vox file into your mod or whatever. But I thought I could show you the mesh for the Keyless security map, so you can get a feeling of what the in-game maps look like as meshes. So here we go. This is what the Keyless map looks like as a mesh. Do shading I have on this. There we go. This is what it looks like. Thought that could be interesting to see, and as you can see, there's a lot of like quite rough rock textures or features already modeled into the mesh, and then I'm using the displacement map more to like get the details out. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. I hope this shed some light on the concepts of UV unwrapping and texturing and baking out the textures and all of that. There's many other ways you could do this. You could use Substance Painter and get like really hardcore with details and stuff, or just go an easy way with triplanar mapping or whatever you like. But these are the core concepts. So take care, guys, and see you around. Bye.